This is an SM Media production. Hi everyone and welcome to the debut episode of the SM Media Road to Cheltenham 2022. I'm Scott McPike, delighted to be your host as always and delighted to be back for the new season. We're joined as always by Calum McClurkin from the Scottish Daily Mail. Calum, welcome back. It's been a long time. How have you been?
Yeah, a long time. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Cannot wait to get back into the groove of getting back focusing in Cheltenham. It's been a long break, obviously. We kind of done a wee spin off the horse racing show. We're doing a bit of the flat. What's been kind of keeping you busy, horse racing wise, between Cheltenham and now?
Basically the flat season. It's still quite enjoyable. The Derby, Guineas, the usual classics. I think jumps just captures imagination a little bit more, than the flat. I think we've had some really good flats performers like Hurricane Lane, Ante, Godolphin for the really strong season of it. St Mark's Basilica was obviously quite special for Ian O'Brien. He's probably going to be the next leading light in the sires for Coolmore. So we've still get the Breeders' Cup next week and the Melbourne Cup on the Monday morning. So I mean, it still keeps going. And then into Dubai, Medan stuff for the March Winter Festival as well, and Shima Classics and Saudi Cup. So I mean, it's still the global show is still going, which is quite a good thing given COVID problems we've had in the last 12-18 months.
Yeah, definitely. It's great just to have the jump racing back as well. Obviously, the season's just getting started. We're going to be joined by a special guest, Gavin Lynch. We're going to do a wee interview with Gavin talking about the upcoming season and obviously his Cheltenham memories and things like that. We're going to put Calum against Gavin in a wee Cheltenham quiz for last year, so we'll put Calum's knowledge to the test. Before we do that, though, we're just going to get a couple of wee storylines for this year. What are you looking forward to this year of the jump season? Which obviously Cheltenham's a kind of big thing, but a couple of potential storylines that we could see this year that you think could be worth noting?
Yeah, I think some certain horses coming back. I think everyone's interested to know what way Envoy Allen will go. Will he come back to his best or will he struggle? I think can Henry de Bromhead replicate his Triple Crown of Cheltenham last year? He certainly has the firepower to do it. Exciting novices coming through. Can the Brits really bounce back at the top table this year? In some of the yards, find some genuine form. I know Nicky Henderson kind of had a tough time of it last year trying to get a lot of stable stars fit. But there seems to be a bit more hope going into it this year. Philip Hobbs seems to be in a bit of a revival, bit better form as well. Nigel Twiston-Davies to start the season quite well. So I mean, there is a bit more optimism in the British side this year, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It was obviously a tough year last year with the kind of situations we had, with kind of Gordon Elliott example. Is it good just to get kind of back to normal in that regard, and hopefully we'll have fans this year and things like that? Is it good just to get back to hopefully a kind of normal routine that we're all used to?
Yeah, it was nice to see in the Cheltenham October meeting, that there was fans there. I think that jumps fans kind of have more affection to a horse than flat. When you see a really good flat horse, it's tend to sensibly put away for pedigree purposes and breeding and stuff like that. While jumps, you get to see in bumpers for season, in novice hurdlers, then maybe established hurdlers, then go novice chasing, then go established chasing. They're with you for like sometimes good at least 5-6 years, rather than maybe 2 or 3 you'd be accustomed to the flat. So I think having fans back at places like Ayr for us, Scottish Grand National, and Aintree and Sandown, Kempton, and obviously Cheltenham is a big plus.
Yeah, definitely. But we are going to get into more of that later on in the show. We're going to look through all our kind of established hurdlers, chasers. We're going to do a full preview of the jump season coming up. But first of all, we're going to talk to the star of Upping the Ante and one of the best minds in horse racing. This is our interview with Gavin Lynch. So we are absolutely delighted to be joined by the star of Upping the Ante and one of the best minds in horse racing, Gavin Lynch. Gavin, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you onto our Road to Cheltenham series. Thank you very much for joining us.
No problem, Scott and Calum. How are you? Yeah, no,
Brilliant.
all good.
Absolutely delighted to have you on, Calum. How excited are we to welcome Gavin onto the show?
Oh, it's great, isn't it? It's absolutely brilliant. Big fan of his shows for the last few years. Certainly must follow. And I know last year he got quite a lot of value and quite a lot of bad luck, a bit like myself. So hoping for better this year.
Few crossbars hit last year, all right. But as I was just saying to you, I was in Scotland there the week before last playing golf. So I love Scotland. So yeah, keep going.
Brilliant. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. We're going to just obviously chat about the kind of upcoming season, but obviously you've got a kind of love affair with Cheltenham, Gavin. Obviously the memories that kind of rule supreme, your brother's horse, obviously winning the RSA a few years ago. Just what does Cheltenham mean to you?
I think it means a huge amount to every Irish person. I don't think people maybe, and maybe they do because so many go over, but in Britain, like I'd say people really, they have an idea of much Irish people love Cheltenham, but we absolutely adore it. The whole season is towards Cheltenham. It's the biggest 4 days of the year. I think it's better than any other 4 days. If you include Augusta or you include the British Open golf, or it's definitely my 4 days, favourite 4 days of sport of the year. Brilliant memories going back to things like I remember in the 80s when Ireland won one race for the week. There was 1 year I think we won no race. I remember Dawn Run. I think my parents let me go home early from school that day to see the Gold Cup. Just some fantastic memories over the years. And now that Ireland are in the ascendancy, it feels a bit different or a bit strange. But I don't think that'll last forever. But Cheltenham means a huge amount to Irish people.
Yeah, brilliant, definitely. Obviously, this year it's obviously going to be a big year. Obviously, as you say, the Irish are kind of dominating the scene. What's the kind of big storylines for you this year? Which kind of spoke to Calum about this briefly at the start of the show. What are you kind of looking forward to this year on the jump season and obviously on the road to Cheltenham?
I think that the novices every year are always probably the most exciting because you don't know, are they going to end up in Gold Cups and stuff later on in champion hurdles. But to see horses like Bob Ollinger and Appreciated going chasing, they're two standouts. They're two of the easiest winners you'll ever see of the Supreme and the Ballymore. So it'll be very interesting when you see them going chasing. I see Vanillier, for example, the Bartlett winners out this weekend over 2.5 miles. So it's all, the novices really are quite exciting. And then you've got the big race like the Gold Cup and Champion Chase and Champion Hurdle. But I think novices are really, I think, what grab people's attention.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to just obviously go into talking a bit about the kind of big races at the festival this year. The Champion Hurdle, obviously we saw how impressive Honeysuckle was last year. She's 7-4 for this year's race already, which and probably very short for a favourite at this stage of the year. But do we see anything, Gavin, being kind of close to Honeysuckle in the division this year?
Not particularly. I mean, she's 12 from 12, I think, on the track. I looked at the Champion Hurdle just the other day from last season, and she absolutely bolted up. She won by 6.5 lengths. So I don't know how anybody could argue that the ones behind her will turn the tables. So you're either looking at her or a new horse in the scene. For her to be getting the £7 allowance is a huge amount. So I can't see a gelding giving her £7 and beating her. You're looking at horses maybe like Echoes and Rain to step up. Settling was an issue, but they got that sorted by the end of the season, won the Grade 1 in Punchestown. But if Honeysuckle was 3-1, we'd all have the mortgage on it, wouldn't we? It's just a price. 7-4 is the only thing that's putting people off. What was really astounding last year was that I think she was 15-8 or 7-4 the day before the race. Mm-hmm. These new betting companies got involved, and the next thing she was odds on the morning of the race. So I found that to be quite amazing. Years ago, she would have SP'd, I think, around 7-4. But obviously, the new computer betting companies, they thought she was an odds-on shot, and that's where she went off. But if you go look at it again, sure, she absolutely hosed up, didn't she? If she was carrying, even if she didn't have the £7 allowance, she still would have won easy. So it's only a price thing. As I said, if she was 3-1, you'd be all in. It's very hard to see her beat, isn't it? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I'll go to Calum before I can have my say. But Calum, what's your obviously thoughts on the Champion Hurdle this scene? Is it Honeysuckle and kind of the rest kind of below?
Yeah, it looks like that. There was only 10 runners as well last year, which suggested that she was kind of an odds-on shot that would scare rivals away. I think Nicky Henderson had a hard season last year. Maybe Epitant can be a bit better. Sharjah, but Gavin's right. She did bolt up, and she does look very, very hard to beat. I'm interested that Henry de Bromhead's going sticking with hurdles with Aspire Tower and Quilixios, and that implies to me that they might run the champion hurdle and they might guarantee that good pace that Honeysuckle wants, and it just takes a speed edge off the likes of Sharjah and Epatante, who are probably still the two main rivals in behind. So I think maybe tactically, it's obviously a bit ridiculous 6 months in advance to look at how tactically a champion hurdle could go, but just the fact that Aspire Tower seems to be staying over hurdles and Quilixios is, it just guarantees that sound, true 2 mile pace that Honeysuckle really thrives upon. So yeah, it's just about really her getting there in one piece, and price sensitive at 74 that could only put you off.
I'd have thought as well. See, obviously the kind of Willie Mullins since the past few years has really been struggling for a kind of champion hurdle horse. Fernie Hollow's only had one run over hurdles and seems to be going chasing that. If Fernie Hollow was to maybe stay over hurdles, I could see him being potentially a threat. What do you think of that, Gavin? Could you see maybe Fernie Hollow or Appreciate It potentially kind of challenging if they stayed over hurdles?
You'd imagine Fernie Hollow would be the one because it beat Appreciate It in the bumper. Fernie Hollow obviously beat Bob Bollinger and Gorham Park that day. So, yeah, if Fernie Hollow went hurdling, now it's very hard to go from maiden hurdle and then show up in a Morgiana, for example. I don't think Willie would be in favour of that. So he'd have to find maybe a grade 3 or grade 2 for him to start off in. But yeah, I did read a month ago that Willie said he's probably going over fences, which was a bit of a surprise to people. But Fernie Hollow's got fantastic form. Again, similar to Echoes and Rain, it took them a while to figure out the tactics. Eventually they got it right in Fairy House, then it won the Cheltenham Bumper, and then it won Gorham Park. So he's definitely a top class horse. If he was going for the champion hurdle, yeah, he'd have a massive chance, but is he going chasing? And then if he goes chasing, where does Appreciated go? Does Appreciated end up in the 2.5 against Bob Bollinger? So that'll have a big bearing on the season.
Yeah, definitely. But we're going to move on, obviously, and talk about the Stairs division. It was one, obviously, before Porter at Cheltenham last year, kind of made all for the front. Time Hill obviously didn't run. We saw a kind of new star in Classical Dream go to 3 miles and win really well at Punchestown. What's your thoughts on that division this year, Gavin? Is there anything kind of catching your eye?
I think Flooring Porter is maybe slightly overpriced. Now he's maybe as mad as a bag of cats, but he showed that in Punchestown. He is definitely quirky. But Gavin Cromwell did say that he's much better going left-handed. He showed that in Navan when he bolted up. He showed it again at Christmas. A lot of people, including myself, thought because it was a slow time, maybe it was a bit of a fluke and he kicked off in the front. But he showed in Cheltenham that it wasn't. He's a very, very good horse. He's top class. I think he's 8 or 10 to 1. That's probably fair enough. Classical Dream, is he going over hurdles or fences again? We don't know. I didn't read anything about that. I don't know if you did.
No, I've not heard anything. That's a one I think we'll kind of be hearing about later on.
I think it's probably, it's not a vintage era of staying hurdlers just at the minute. But each way, Flooring Porter, if he calms down a bit, going back left-handed, I think you can discount the Punchestown run personally.
Yeah, Gavin, Calum, sorry, what's your thoughts on the Stairs hurdle division? Is Time Hill the best of the British?
It looks like that. Philip Hobbs has had quite an encouraging start to the season as well. He kind of struggled last year, I think, to get everyone fit. Time Hill obviously missed the festival, so it came back, won quite well at Aintree. Yeah, he's probably a leading light for the Brits at the moment. Classical Dream. I did hear murmurings that he might be staying over hurdles.
Was he not entered in a beginner's chase just before Christmas last year?
He was last year.
Yeah, last year.
So I think that's
something there. I think everyone's waiting on a Willie Mullins stable tour, and I think in the race supposed to be like a 5 or 6 parter, wasn't it? Because he's got so many options. One that I would throw at a price is Gallard de Menil if he kept him over hurdles. Patrick Mullins did hint that a few weeks ago that they might keep him over hurdles. So I think that Ballymore form's looking really strong. Does he know was the last in it? He's came out and won 2 chases since for Kim Bailey, and Bob Ollins is obviously an absolute monster, and Brave Man's Game has certainly made a good transition to fences already. So if they keep Gallard de Menil over hurdles, 25 to 1 in him at the moment seems to be, it might be worth a small poke, but of course he could go over fences as well, and I think that looks another 50-50 decision. Yeah,
it's going to be an interesting division to follow as well. Shishkin was obviously the main the main attraction in the Novice Chase division at over 2 miles last year. Going up to kind of big company with likes of Chacun Persois, Energumene's obviously going to go there as well. This could be a stacked division, Gavin. Obviously, Shishkin's probably the leading contender, but Energumene, we didn't see the duel we wanted. Chacun Persois is there, put the kettle on. There's a lot of class in that division for this upcoming season.
Yeah, it probably looks the race to meet at the moment. We've said that a few times in the last couple of years, and then races have fallen apart. Like even recently, a couple of years ago, the Champion Hurdle fell apart. The Champion Chase the year before last, it fell apart. So hopefully they all get there. Chacun Persois looked brilliant again at Punchestown, but I don't know. It'd have to be in the back of your mind that he didn't come up the Cheltenham Hill. Now, is it just the Cheltenham Hill? I don't know. Maybe he didn't travel, etc., over to Britain, but he was very, very disappointing. He looked to certainly coming to the second last, or between the second last and the last. He was up the inside. He got the run of the race, and like you couldn't say for sure that he'd put the kettle on this year again. Do you know? So Energumene looks top class. Is he quite as good going left-handed? He probably is. He probably on soft ground. Shishkin looks brilliant, not as good at Aintree. The tactics in the race are going to be interesting because Energumene will want to lead. Chacun Persois showed a Punchestown. It prefers maybe to lead. So Willie probably won't get the two of them to take each other on. I think at 5-1, I think Energumene probably represents value. Shishkin, I think, is around 7-4. So yeah. For me, Energumene maybe, but it's a brilliant race, really, really. And the speed to go at in the Champion Chase, like if you miss one or two jumps, you're in serious bother. But they're all quite good. They're decent jumpers, so hopefully that doesn't come into it. But yeah, to me, at the moment, it's maybe the race of the festival.
Calum, do you share the thoughts in the Champion Chase? Could we been for a box office race this year?
I do, yeah. It looks like a fascinating race, and hopefully they do all get there. Energumene is probably a little bit big in relation to Shishkin. The Arkle is a race that kind of largely cut up last year. And Shishkin certainly wasn't as impressive as Aintree as he was. Maybe there was a lasting mark from the Arkle with him, but he does look like a hybrid of Sprinter Saka and Ante or a little bit Shishkin. The way he operates. The only thing could question it is the genuine substance of his form. I think he's going to restart in the Tingle Creek, and he might bump into a lot like the likes of Grenadine there. Maybe Willie Mullins will send Energumene or Chacun Persois over just to split them up as well for the Tingle Creek, like he did that with Undersow quite often. So I think the Tingle Creek's going to be a big litmus test to Shishkin. Certainly going to be his toughest in open company. So I wouldn't be steaming in at 64 he is right now, even though he looks like he could be the next best thing. Energumene could be the same profile, and the open company form I think is. There's a lot of rivals there that could still improve. I think Grenadine's got more improvement in him. Nubi Negra is certainly overpriced at 25-1, given he was second last year and put the kettle on, just absolutely adores Cheltenham. So there's plenty of contenders and plenty of traps for Shishkin if he does find the Tingle Creek a little bit hot.
There was talk of after the Ryanair, Allaho perhaps dropping down to 2 miles. It didn't work out at Punchestown, but Allaho could dominate that kind of intermediate division, Gavin. Do we think this is the kind of best thing to do with Allaho, or could we potentially maybe see them kind of trying a Gold Cup again, or giving the kind of 2 mile a second chance? What's your thoughts on Allaho in that kind of intermediate division?
Yeah, well, Willie has 2 for the Champion Chase, so he won't go there. I don't think, and he showed a Punchestown. He probably isn't quick enough. I'd say Willie will try 3 miles once more just to see, but it was a great performance in the Ryanair, so I'd imagine he'll go back there. But I'd say Willie will try 3 mile once more just to see. But his form generally in the first half of the season is not as good as the second half. So even if he gets beat in November, December, I wouldn't worry too much about Allaho.
Calum, are you a fan of Allaho, and do you think this is a division he could dominate?
To just ask, do you think the King George could be an option? Is his 3 mile run for the season, Allaho?
Yeah, maybe. The only thing I'd say is that I know Willie has won the King George before, but it's probably too early in the season. Mm-hmm. Like Willie's a record at Christmas, it's just not near as good as say at the end of January. I'd say if the King George was in early February, maybe, yeah, but I think Christmas will come too soon, so I wouldn't say go to the King George.
Cool. Yeah, no, I just thought that might be the easiest 3 miles, and he tried it with footpad, didn't he?
Possibly a time thing, that's all.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, I think obviously his Ryanair performance was spectacular, wasn't it? I'm interested in the jockey bookings. Is Rachel Blackmore going to ride him again? That might not happen because Paul Townend was obviously Min's retired, so that relationship might affect him slightly because he does seem to have his quirks at times. But I think the Ryanair certainly has to lose, isn't it? I mean, how can it not be after last time? I do wonder if something will try and go with him a bit better earlier on this time. Maybe apply a bit of pace pressure, but it looked like a thankless task on that day as well. So yeah, I'm a bit more lukewarm about him than most people. I don't think it's an automatic given that he's going to win it again.
We're up to the kind of top division, the Gold Cup division. Obviously, we saw Manel win that really well last year. Like Appletard are there. We thought we were going to get Monkfish. Obviously, he's been ruled out for the season. We're yet to find out if Envoy Allen's back to his best. We'll get more of that knowledge at the weekend. Gavin, the Gold Cup, if you'd an early pick for the Gold Cup, what would it be?
I was chatting to Jenno David there a week or two ago for the Racing Post, and I said that I thought 6-1 Manila Indo and 10-1 Plutard were too big. I see they're 5-1 and 8-1 there now. Like, they set a very, very high standard to go and beat Albion Photo, and the three of them were well clear. Like, for somebody to come a new kid on the block to beat that will take a very, very good horse. Now, it's possible. They're not the greatest 3-mile chasers we've ever seen, but just Manel Indo loves Cheltenham. He loves March. He seems to improve at that time of year. He's due to run this weekend. Even if he got beat, now I think he's even money for this weekend, but even if he got beat, I wouldn't worry too much. You've got Eclat de Rear won okay the other day in Wexford. Esport de Rame is probably overpriced at 40s. Is Chantry House going to stay 3 mile too? There's lots of questions, but I think I've had no bet in the race, and I probably won't for a good while. But I think that the first and second favourites, they set a very, very good standard. And the other thing is, with Gold Cup winners, you have to keep an eye on their age. And Manel Indo, I think, is turning 9, and Plutard is turning 8. There was only a length of quarter, I think, between them. So that's only literally, a jump here and there. So I think they set a very high standard. And, for some of the others to come along, whether it be a Galvin or a latest exhibition, etc., geez, they'd certainly want to improve a little bit to get to their standard.
Envoy Allen's an interesting one. Obviously, with a lot of high hopes. You were talking about how he was maybe one of the best horses I've ever seen. He obviously had a disappointing end to the season. Do we think he can bounce back to what we thought he could be?
I hope so. I love the horse. He's my favourite horse the last few years. Compared to the Coral Cup time on the day, which you can compare all the Ballymore winners with, it's the same trip. It's only run usually 40 minutes later or whatever, within an hour or two. And Envoy Allen had the fastest time for the last 15 years compared to that day's Coral Cup winner. So to me, he was top class. To win a Royal Bond, to win a Ballymore, to win the bumper, he just, even the way Gordon spoke about him, even more recently since he's lost him, the sleepless nights he had about him, Gordon doesn't talk up his horses too much, but when he talks like that about Envoy Allen, he certainly adored him. I just would always worry about National Hunt horses coming back from injury. It never really, 8 times out of 10, they don't come back as good as they were, so I'd really worry that he's as good as he was. But look, I think it was a hock injury, somebody said. Maybe that's not correct, I'm not sure. But I wonder, will he end up staying the Gold Cup trip, or could he end up maybe in a Ryanair? Time will tell. He will be tried over 3 mile. This weekend's race, the 2.5 mile second season Novice, is the perfect race for him. He won his beginner's chase in Down Royal, so he should win. I'd love to see him back, but I just would have a niggly doubt that I just hope he's as good as he was.
Callum, you were the president of the Monkfish fan club last year. You were talking, even last year, you were saying he was going to win this year's Gold Cup. How disappointing is it that you're not going to see Monkfish, and what's your kind of thoughts in that division?
Gutted that he's not going to be there, because he was obvious novice that you think he was going to compete at the Gold Cup division this year and maybe bridge a gap. But Gavin's certainly right. Manila Indo and Appletard did run to a really, really high level. To put Alban Photo away, a dual Gold Cup winner quite comfortably, was a really good performance. I mean, I was on Manila Indo Ante post at 16-1 and largely gave up because of his form over the season. But from a mile in, I thought he looked like the winner a long, long way out that day. He just enjoyed the best trip and he was in the best rhythm all the time. Appletard did a little bit of scrimmaging with Albion Foot in behind, and Miniland was away and gone. Appletar could turn the form around. He's a year younger, and I don't think he got the best trip in the world either that day. I think Miniland was at a better rhythm. I think now Monkfish is out, I think we'll probably see more of Albion Photo than we have before in terms of his prep for the Gold Cup. He might be more aggressively campaigned by William Williams, so that might bring out a bit more sharpness in him as well. So I wouldn't categorically rule him out, even though age seems to be going against him slightly. And Chantry House, it's dubious whether he gets 3 miles, but I just think his effort in the marsh kind of left a little mark in Aintree, a bit like Shishkin did, and I think I'd be happy enough to forgive him. And he largely missed the first half of the season due to niggling back.
Win that day at Aintree if Esper Road the Romney stayed in his feet.
It was tight, wasn't it? I actually thought he would have held on, although a lot of people thought Esper Romy would have beaten, but I do think he might have had enough class to win, but it was very hard to tell. It's a long straight Aintree, isn't it? Yeah, there's other good time. I mean, Galvin, I'd be interested if he'll run Saturday as well, along with Delta work. If those two can kind of get back to some form, then they might be players. So yeah, it's an interesting division, but I definitely agree. Miniland and Appletar certainly set quite a daunting standard for the rest to catch.
Brilliant. Gavin, we've opened the floor up to some fans who are going to ask a couple of questions. Would you be all right taking them, yeah?
Yeah, no problem, yeah.
Brilliant. The first question I've got here is from Sam Toggle. What was your first anti-post bet of the Cheltenham Festival 2022?
First anti-post bet? But I think I did a double. Appreciated to win the Arkle and Bob Ollinger to win the Marsh. I can't remember. Maybe 2 4-1s or something, but just to do a double. So happy with that, except when I read about Fernie Hollow. So that's a bit of a little niggly one, because if he didn't show up over fences for the Arkle, because he's obviously beaten the 2 of them already, so he's definitely as good or better than them. So if he didn't go chasing, I'd be happy with that bet. But I think that was the first one.
This is another one as well from Mark Smith. Does Gavin think Mrs. Milner has the improvement to be a Stairs hurdle contender this season?
Look, the Stairs hurdle is not a top division, is it? You know, Flooring Porter is a very, very good horse, but is he beatable? Yes, he's last year's champion. Mrs. Milner, she bolted up in the Pertemps final. She still has a little bit to improve to get to the ratings. You know, you need to get to say 160. She won quite well in Limerick on her return, but yeah, she's absolutely open to loads of improvement. She showed that she likes Cheltenham a couple of times. So why not? Would I back her? Yeah, probably not, but she'd have to have an each way chance, yeah.
And the final question, what would be your thoughts on a 5-day festival? Do you think it would dilute the quality of the racing at the one show?
I think it's inevitable. So, you know, whether diehards, you know, there was a lot of furore about change from 3 days to 4 days, and sure now it's like totally normal. It's going to happen. We'll just have to get used to it. It'll probably end up being, say, 6 races a day for a while. I don't know whether they'll ever get to 5 by 7, but 30 races. So we've 28 at the moment. So they'll probably bring back in maybe the novice handicap chase that they took out, and maybe a veterans race or something. But I think it's inevitable. So look, it's going to be another day off work, isn't it? So I don't.
Definitely. Calum, what was your thoughts on that? I know we had a wee kind of conversation about that, like in our last series, but it is inevitable. The one thing that's getting me when they were speaking about it during the summer was they're going to keep the Gold Cup on the Friday if they were going to go to a Saturday. That would be a strange decision. But what would your thoughts be on that?
Yeah, I suppose they could make it a Saturday just to add more revenue, isn't it? I mean, I think COVID's got a bit of a part to play. I think it does. I think Racecourse is just desperate for short-term income from somewhere, as is almost every walk of life at the moment. And putting more races on the short term is going to do that at a festival like Cheltenham. As long as the calendar doesn't stay, as long as the races and the calendar doesn't move about too much, then I'll be open for it. But there is a sense of inevitability that it will be 5 days. I'd rather it's kept at 4. I do think you can get a bit of fatigue going into the tail end of Friday, but yeah, I'm open to any suggestion really to improve the calendar. So if it's a 5-day Cheltenham, then that's fine, as long as it doesn't affect the races too much. And it's hard enough to find the right horse going to the right race at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Final question for Gavin. Would Britain benefit from a Dublin Racing Festival equivalent at the end of January, perhaps beginning of February?
Yeah, it probably would. The thing that would worry me a little bit is I just hope trainers don't start avoiding Cheltenham. We've seen it a little bit last year, the year before, that, if you've got what you think is in your head is a grade 1 horse, might be a grade 2 horse, do you want to keep it for entry? The prize money is quite good in entry. So I just hope that, trainers and owners don't start avoiding Cheltenham. To answer your question, it couldn't do any harm. The Dublin Racing Festival fits in quite well with, it's, say, 5 weeks roughly after Christmas. It's 6 weeks before Cheltenham. A lot of the big trainers, say Gordon and Henry and Willie, they do like it. The stats on the Dublin Racing Festival haven't always been brilliant in terms of Cheltenham. A couple of years ago they weren't good. Last year they were a bit better. So yeah, I think it's good. They basically condensed, say, 3 meetings into 1 weekend. So I think it's a good idea. But for Britain to have something similar, is that going to make a huge difference? I wouldn't say it'd make a huge difference. But yeah, I wouldn't say it'd do any harm either.
So we're going to finish up this wee chat with Gavin by putting Gavin and Calum on the spot in a wee 2020 Cheltenham Festival quiz. So we're going to obviously stick to last year. We've got a 1 wee question that we can maybe you'll need to go back a few years to get the answers, but 8 questions. There's 10 points up for grabs, and I've prepared for a tiebreaker if we need it. I think we will need it because I'm expecting both guys to get 10 out of 10 with the adequate racing knowledge that they both have. So we'll start with the first question. What fence did Envoy Allen fall in the Mars Novices chase? You can play along at home as well. So we'll give you guys a couple of seconds to put their answer down. We good?
Yeah.
Go for it, yeah.
Second question. Who finished second in the 2021 champion chase? Third question. What age was Vintage Clouds the winner of the Ultima Handicap chase?
Let's see that.
Question 4. Allaho was Willie Mullins' 4th winner of the Ryanair chase. You've got a point each if you can name his other 3.
Oh, for God's sake.
No.
I can never remember any of these things, honestly. Oh my God.
Probably the most obvious one that you forget as well.
No, I've only got one. Right.
We'll come back to we'll come back to that at the end. You can obviously do the questions, and then we'll give you a minute just to kind of fill in any wee answers. If you need any questions asked, we can go through them again. 5th question. What SP did the Boodles winner Jeff Kidder go off on the day?
Actually, I think I've got the 3 Ryanair winners. Not so bad. I'm not as thick as I thought I was.
Very good. Now, question 6. Who was the top owner at the 2021 Cheltenham Festival?
Owner. It's usually him, isn't it? It's A or B.
We'll move on to question 7. Who rode Mrs. Milner to victory in the Pertemps final?
Shocking. Trying to remember that.
That's not you looking at a laptop, is it?
No, it's me writing down. Wish it was.
And the final question, question 8. What race did Gold Cup winner Manella Indo finish second in 2020? Callum's taking his time there. I thought Callum would have got that straight away.
Don't I get held it right? Repeat it, please.
Yep. What race did Gold Cup winner Manila Indo finish second in the 2020 Cheltenham Festival?
Yeah.
Have we all
Right.
got 10 answers written down?
8. Oh, 10, yeah.
And Callum, are you all good? End need any questions read back to them?
I don't think so. No.
Right, we'll say around time, Callum. Are you ready?
Right. we'll go with question 1. What fence did Envoy Lane fall in the Mars Novices chase?
3, 2,
Fourth.
1. Fourth.
It was the fourth. That's 1 point each. Second question: who finished second in the Queen Mother Champion chase?
Nubia Negra.
It'd be Negra, yeah.
It was Nubia Negra, 2 out of 2. I'm telling you, this is 10 out of 10. I've got my tiebreaker ready. What age was Vintage Clouds the winner of the Ultima Handicap chase?
I'm going to say 11, but I'd say that's
10.
wrong.
It was 11. Gavin goes in front with a 3-2 lead. It was 11.
It's terrible because I backed him.
Question 4. Allaho was Willie Mullen's 4th winner of the Ryanair chase. Can you name his other 3? I'll go with Gavin first. Can you name his 3?
Vautour, Min and Undersaw.
Callum, you got them?
Stearman, Undersaw. Yeah.
Very good. Question 5. What SP did Boodles winner Jeff Kidder go off at? Both of you at the same time.
66
to 1.
He was 80 to 1. Callum goes level. It's now 4 each. 10 out of 10's out the window, but I'm still thinking of a tiebreaker. Who was the top owner at the 2021 Cheltenham Festival?
I had just go JP McManus. So
I don't know whether to say JP or Cheveley Park, and I can't decide which one to say. But I'd say JP.
It was Cheveley Park with 3.
Oh,
So we're still level. Question 7. Who rode Mrs. Milner to victory in the Pertemps final?
Brian Cooper.
Brian Cooper.
It was Brian Cooper. Telling you this tiebreaker's coming. That's a great tiebreaker, by the way. I spent a lot of time getting into this. Question 8, the final question. What race did Gold Cup winner Manila Indo finish second in 2020?
Festival chase.
RSA.
It was the RSA, yeah. Then the RSA Festival Novices Chase, Brown Advisory now. We're level at 6 each, so we are going to get into a tiebreaker. Now, obviously, this is going to be closest to, because it's a big number. In lengths, can you name the combined winning distance of all 28 races at the 2021 Cheltenham Festival?
1 second.
In lengths. Oh dear. I'm in trouble here.
Can
Everyone's trying to do maths.
if I was smart, I'd get Callum to say a figure and then say higher or lower. But I won't.
Right.
I won't.
Price is Right style. I've roughly got it.
Right, we'll go to Gavin first. Gavin, what was your answer?
I'm going to go with 1 second. Going to go with 170.
Callum, what you got?
JMO 168 I had.
It's 150, so Callum wins the quiz.
Well done, Callum.
28 times 6 length. 168. Yeah. Well done.
Brilliant. It was an absolute joy to do that quiz. Gavin, obviously, Up in the Ante starts very shortly. When can we expect Up in the Ante to kick off this year?
Tuesday the 9th of November. So looking forward to that. So yeah, keeping a bit of manners on Dave. Yeah, sure, it should be a bit of fun. Yeah.
Brilliant. But we can only say thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you very much for joining us.
And we'll have a game of golf in Scotland someday, maybe.
Definitely. Looking forward to it. Thanks very much, Gavin. Really appreciate it. And that was our interview with Gavin Lynch. That was an absolute pleasure to do. We thoroughly enjoyed that. But we are going to keep the show on the road. We are going to talk a bit about some horses to follow in the Novice Hurdlers and Novice Chasers division. Novice Hurdlers, we've got a few. Obviously, we saw last year in the bumper division, like Kilcreutz or Gerhard, obviously 2 big ones. Callum, what are the horses you're looking forward to in that Novice Hurdle division this season?
the champion bumper, this seems to be the natural place to go, isn't it? Kilcroot and Sir Gerhard. So just, I think the initial opinion is that Kilcroot might be more of a Ballamore type, and Sir Gerhard might be more of a Supreme type. I thought Three Stripe Life as well ran a really good race in fourth. Again, he could be more of a Ballamore type. I think there has been subsequent winners quite low down the champion bumper already, so it is shaping up to quite a strong renewal. The emphasis on speed helped Sir Gerhard, I think, and he's better positioned at Cheltenham to win. That form did get reversed around at Punchestown. Given the proximity of O'Toole to them, maybe the champion bumper did leave a little bit of a mark on both. So I would probably rather take the champion bumper form as gospel more than the Punchestown form, with a view to next year's Cheltenham Festival. But there's certainly others in there. I'd expect Nicky Henderson to have a much better season. Britain really didn't have a real novice hurdle to speak of at the Cheltenham Festival. I think Aya Maximus is interesting. Obviously beat My Drogo of Dan Skelton's in a bumper. Had niggly problems since and didn't run. He was meant to run at Aintree, I think, in that bumper, but too many setbacks. He could be a 2-miler or a 2.5-miler. There's plenty of John Bono as well for that yard. It's obviously got brilliant connections to the likes of Duvan and stuff. And he's already like about 8-1. So his reputation's already kind of preceded him a little bit. Just a word of caution on him. We were here last year talking about Flinter Sacra really trying to maybe was quite similar, but with lofty connections, and it didn't quite go right. So I'm a bit apprehensive taking eights about John Bon, but he could be the proverbial anything. Dart Raven is also one that catches the eye for Willie Mullins at that trip. Balco Coastal's another one for Nicky Henderson that does look like a 2-miler. Ante did well for Ollie Murphy at Chepstow this week. Thought he looked quite good. In Grand Jury, Rob Coore and Henry de Bromheads might be their 2-mile novice hurdler for the season. So that's the ones I've kind of the long short list at the moment of Supreme contenders anyway.
Yeah, I've got a few written down as well. Obviously, Journey with Me was one that I spoke about before we kind of done the last show last year. Same, obviously, profile as Bob Ollinger, won the same bumper, the point-to-point bumper race, as a point-to-point winner. Same owners, same connections. A lot of talk out in the yard about how good this horse is. The one thing I would say about Journey with Me compared to Bob Ollinger is the talk seems to be that Journey with Me is more of a stayer. Whereas we saw Bob Ollinger was more a kind of at gears. Could potentially, obviously, we saw his maiden hurdle was a 2-mile against Fernie Hollow. Mm-hmm. So I would say Johnny with Me is probably more of a stair. I think they're going to start him over 2.5. So I would say potentially Ballymore and keep an eye for the Bartlett. I think Ballymore would obviously be the preferred option. I think they'd want to go the same kind of journey as Bob Ollinger. The 3 Cheveley horses that they've bought, obviously, Classic Getaway, Grangeclare West, Gilly Billy. There's 3 horses there, and I don't think any of them are going to go over bumpers. I think they're all going to go over hurdles. There seems to be the chat coming out of the yards. We've not heard much in Classic Getaway and Grangeclare West, but the chat with Gilly Billy is he's certainly going to be over hurdles. Any of them kind of catching your eye this year, the Cheveley horses?
Yeah, I think Gilly Billy's coming out this week down Royal. He's probably one to keep an eye on. In terms of Ballymore, I've got Journey with Me down as a Ballymore horse purely because of the Bob Ollinger background. But yeah, while Bob Ollinger looks like he's got the pace for 2 miles, you would assume that Journey with Me, it was one in a complete bog as well, that he would have endless amounts of stamina. He might be more of a 3-miler. There's a bit more prestige about the Ballymore though, so they might stick to 2.5 with him. Dysart Dynamo as well looks like a 2.5 miler of Willie Mullins. He's got good bumper form as well. I think he's probably quite smart. And Doddy the Great of Nicky Henderson's as well looks like a 2.5, 3-miler type. I quite like his attitude when he won bumpers at Huntingdon and Ludlow. And I'm just weary. Henderson actually managed to get 2 runs into him last season, which was quite an achievement last year, given I think a lot of well-documented kind of issues behind the scenes there of getting horses fit. COVID kind of hit them hard. So I do quite like the way he does it, and a biggest story for the Doddy Weir Foundation, owned by Kenny Alexander, to
absolutely
have a good horse there. He certainly looks like a graded operator, and I'd imagine he'd start at 2.5 miles.
Yeah, there's a good bumper horse as well for last year that I wrote about in my 10 horses to follow for this year. Let's be clear about it for Gavin Cromwell. It's a really good kind of profile with kind of staying hurdlers. Obviously won the Novice, the Albert Bartlett, and won the Stairs last year with 2 horses. Let's be clear about it, last year looks to be screaming for a trip, and I think he could be a 3-mile competitor in that division. I think he's screaming out for that sort of distance.
Yeah, I've only got 2 down really. They're supposed to clash it down on Saturday. It's of Elliott's, it's Hollow Games and Jerry Colombe.
Yeah,
3 miles. Jerry Colombe at 50-1 is particularly big because he certainly does look like an out-and-out 3-miler minimum kind of horse. I think Rob Coor has probably looking at Grand Jury for the Supreme, Journey with Me, Ballymore, maybe Jerry Colombe, Albert Bartlett. Obviously, it can change dramatically from now till Cheltenham anyway, if they all get there even in the first place. But in Hollow Games, I think it's a horse that's just got a lot more to offer. Don't think you saw the best of him even last year, really. Those are 2 that have caught my eye at staying trips.
Yeah, I've got one that I would quite like to get your thoughts on. A horse for Willie Mullins called Habrisco, but we'll do that in the kind of 5 horses to follow. There's a one coming out of the yard. I know Kevin Blake was very bullish about Eric Bloodaxe. He was a really good bumper winner a couple of years ago, and didn't really go to plan last year. He could be one to follow if he's back to any sort of form.
Yeah, Joseph O'Brien's yard. I just wonder if that yard are now primarily focusing the flat stuff now.
Yeah.
Given he's out in Australia and winning Group 1s there, I don't really know how much focus the jump's going to get. I thought I'd expect like at least one decent kind of triumph horse to emerge, and never really got it. I mean, I suppose Bustleton showed a couple of things, and they have started the season reasonably well. They will have a couple of decent handicap chances, and I just wonder if they are kind of more flat orientated than jump orientated at this moment in time in the season, particularly.
Yeah, I've got one for the triumph that we'll touch on in a wee minute about Joseph O'Brien, so I'm keen to get your thoughts on that. Novice Chasers, obviously last year we had a kind of stacked division in all departments, the likes of Shishkin, Monkfish, Envoy Allen, obviously before Cheltenham, and then the likes of Energamine with just a stacked division, Galvin. There was just a lot of horses to talk about. This year we have a lot of really good hurdlers who look to be going chasing. We'll start with the 2-mile division with Appreciated, the Supreme winner. He looks to be the real deal.
He does. Just 3-mile point-to-point background, and his age suggests he screams everything about 3 miles, and I've always been keen to take him on. I don't think he'll ever learn the lesson and stop. Probably take him on the Arkle if he stays there, and if he goes to the Marsh, he'll probably take him on with Bob Olinger anyway.
Can I present you a question right now? Can you imagine in March sitting on the Thursday afternoon, and we've got Appreciate It, Bob Olinger, and My Drogo all line up in the Marsh?
That's a dream. I hope it happens.
I hope it happens. That would be some race, but Appreciate It. We spoke about it earlier in the week. Appreciate It. They've stuck to 2 mile over hurdles, and he kind of bossed that division. We thought he would go to in a normal year, obviously, he would go to a Ballymore, maybe even a Bartlett, but they're going to probably stick at that division for the time being, aren't they? There's no point probably changing unless he gets beat.
No, I don't think he'd change a winning formula now. Stay to 2 miles until he gets beat or shapes that he really does need further. The Supreme that he won cut up, but you can only beat what's in front of you, really. He's done that with authority, and even if you want to crowd the form in behind, the times that he's putting in are exceptional. Certainly not slow. I mean, you thought, the opening day, thinking the ground's going to be soft, he's going to do well to post a time anyway, the 4-minute mark, and he did it quite well. So everything he does is just completely effortless at the moment. Whether some catch up with him in terms of maturity, I don't know, but he's one of those horses where you can really put him in any environment and he'll handle it really well.
Yeah, there's a lot of, obviously we're going to do a full recap next week of the horses that's kind of caught our eye from kind of last year to this year. Anything in the Arkle kind of betting that's potentially a kind of player, a kind of bigger price for you?
I mean, we've seen Third Time Lucky come out and put in like a really visually impressive performance. Question what he beat, but he'd done it at Cheltenham. It'll effectively be course and distance. His jump was a lot better than like say All Mankind's was at that stage last season. It was very impressive. Harry Skelton tried to restrain him, just let him bowl on, and he certainly wasn't stopping. There was no signs of tiredness, and the time I think was 3:51, which is pretty good. The initial quota 20-1 was quite big. He's now in 14s, which is probably reasonable, but he is clearly going to be Britain's 2 mile hope with the Arkle at the moment. You know, we particularly think Dussart's going to go up on trip. And he's still.
Do you think he'll go over fences?
It's up there. I think he will. I think that's the plan. I'm not 100% sure, but I do think that's the plan. He might be more of a marsh horse, and then that does look like Bob Allen's division anyway. So
yeah,
maybe you are more inclined to run it 2 miles or skip it altogether and go to Aintree. I don't know what they'll do, but yeah, Third Time Lucky give a chance. I think Mr. Coffee could improve a lot over fences, and a dream run for Nicky Henderson. And he might even be a Grand Annual horse if they don't the handicapper. And Fernie Hollow is certainly a flying ointment for appreciated fans in the 2 mile division. So they'll be the 4 that we're looking for. A 1 at a wild price is Magic Days of Henry de Bromheads.
That's the one I've got as well.
She didn't see it out in her chasing debut over an extended 2 mile too, and I think it was a trip that kind of got her. But she was really headstrong in the Mares Novices hurdle and did really well to plug on for third. I just think a bang 2 miles around Cheltenham can suit her down to the ground. Henry de Bromhead can improve horses, for fences really well in his yards. Notebook sizing Europe, classic example. So she could be a threat. She'll get allowances as well, and she won't go to the mare's chase because she won't stay 2.5 miles. Yeah,
there's one I've written down as well, but I've just saw before we come on that he's entered in a hurdle, so I don't think that he's going to go chasing. Boot Hill for Harry Fry, he was very, very impressive in a maiden hurdle, and he beat Bothwell Bridge in a bumper, who's a horse that Henderson has serious hopes for over fences. So I was thinking about him, but the thing they're going hurdles, so I don't think he could potentially be a chaser. I'm surprised Calexios hasn't gone over fences because he just looked an outright chasing to me.
Yeah, that's why I thought maybe because it's a 4-year-old turning 5, they don't want to do that and give him an extra year. Or my outlandish theory of Henry de Bromhead just wants a guaranteed true pace for Honeysuckle in the champion hurdle, and him and Aspar Tower will provide it, and that wipes out the turn of foot threat and slow pace. It's the only thing that I can see Honeysuckle getting beat in a champion hurdle in that way. I think Boot Hill might also want a bit of a trip as well. I think 2 mile might be a bit skinny for him.
We will move on to talking about the Master Division, and it looks as if it's going to be headlined by one of the best horses I've ever tipped. I'm bullish about that. I'm still tell everybody about Bob Ollinger, machine in the Ballamore. It was a stacked Ballamore, Brave Man's Game, who's went on to do well in a novice chase. Gallard de Menil, I know you spoke about him earlier on in the show. Bob Ollinger just looks a monster, doesn't he? He just looks to have everything you want in a chaser.
Oh yeah, he looks like complete package, isn't he? As long as he transfers that hurdle form into fences, maybe even improve for it, it's going to be very hard to oppose wherever he goes. Yeah,
definitely. I don't think Bob Ollinger's going to be. I think he's going to be very hard to stop in that race. My Drogo looks to be the best of the British. Obviously, was very impressive at Aintree over hurdles. Looks a chaser. Potential kind of threat to Bob Ollinger in that division.
Potentially, yeah, he shaped quite well, but he did skip Cheltenham. I think Mon Morale was the best juvenile hurdler around. He skipped Cheltenham. Yeah. He could be a potential champion hurdler, but then you've got to answer the Cheltenham question with these younger horses and whether they'll compete with the really best that were there of Ireland at Prestbury Park is another thing. He's also probably a bit short enough. I do think this is his likely trip. could go for the 3 miler, I suppose. Wouldn't be beyond them, but yeah, I would like to see him do. I would like to see him, let's say, running like the Dipper or something, and answer the Cheltenham question. It shouldn't be a problem, you know. I mean, he does look like a horse that can act anywhere. So yeah, he's certainly the obvious British threat, isn't he? I mean, Dussart could do it maybe. I thought Craig Nish ran really well in the Coral Cup.
Yeah.
He's going over fences. He could might be one for the 3 miler as well, but 2.5 miler, you'd imagine would start there, and if he was impressive enough, they might keep him at that trip. So there are a few alternatives, but yeah, it's hard to really look past Paul Wallinger at this point.
Yeah, Paul Wallinger looks to be a kind of probably the kind of best value bet of the week already, kind of sitting about 72. But we'll move into the 3 mile division. Obviously, Brave Man's Games come out and done really well, beat Fuzel Raffles in the big breakaway. Galloping Deschamps, who obviously we both really like and we both kind of spoke about in the show previously. That could be a good duel. Is there anything kind of in that 3 mile division you like?
Really like Galloping Deschamps if he goes here. It does seem about 80-20 that he will, by all the murmurings, that he will go over fences. The Martin Pike background gets comparisons to Don Pauly, and won it with Collective Vic, I think, won the Martin Pike. I mean, all of Willie Mullins'
Sir Deschamps won it as well. Yeah.
Sir Deschamps would be. It is the type of horse that you'd be looking for Festival novices. I do have a bit of 20-1. He's the only bet I've had in the whole Cheltenham 2022, and I'm pretty pleased with it because I do think he beat Brave Man's Game at the moment. Brave Man's Game, I think, is still a bit of a hype horse, although he did take to fences really well in his debut, so I mean, he's obviously going to improve for that. And the Ballamore is strong form, so
yeah,
he will need respected for sure. But yeah, I think Galloping Deschamps could potentially be quite special, a la Monkfish mould.
Yeah, I'm kind of keen to see Galloping Deschamps out as well. We'll touch on a bit more on Brave Man's Game performance next week on this first recap we do. But obviously, we're going to move into 5 horses to follow. So 5 horses each that we think could take the jump season by storm. So, Calum, do you want to go first or second?
I'll leave it up to you. What do you want to do?
I'll go first if you want. Obviously, I've got a few written down here. The first one I've got down is a horse for David Pike that finished second in the Triumph Hurdle. I think Adagio could potentially be a good horse for staying over hurdles. I was hoping he'd go over fences, but it looks as if he's going to stick over hurdles. I think there's maybe even a chance he could line up in a couple of weeks. He could be potentially, I know Monmoril looks to be the best UK juvenile last year, but he was very, very good in that Triumph Hurdle. He finished second. He kind of stayed with Calixios for a lot of the way and just get beaten on the day with a better horse. The third in that race as well, Hot on Callure. He's not one of my 5 to follow, but he could improve. I think they're going to stay over hurdles with him. I've not heard enough to say that he won't, but he could be a potential takeaway from that race. I really like Angel's Breath. I was hoping he would turn up last year in a kind of Ryanair, but obviously injuries. If he was to get back to anywhere near what he was in that, I think it was a really good chase he won last year before he was out injured. I really, really like him. I really like Angel's Breath. I thought he was just a bit too young for the Supreme when he was in it. I thought he was a kind of hype horse, but he improved so much for a fence. He looked so much better when he went to bigger obstacles. So I've got Angel's Breath written down. I have went for Hibrisco for Willie Mullins for a kind of Richie horse for the Supreme. It's got the same background as the likes of Duvan and Vautour, who obviously won that race. Big purchase for the Richies. Looked to be a really, really good horse in France. I think he won one hurdle really, really comfortably. He looked really impressive. I'm waiting to see what will happen with him. But as you say, Willie Mullins has a stacked division in the novice hurdle, so he could potentially be, even if they don't kind of get as much out of him, a county hurdle horse, follow the similar path, the likes of Ganapathy last year. Fourth one, I have got Garth Dessau, who could be a very, very exciting chaser. He won a maiden hurdle very, very well, and the second in that race won very well a couple of weeks ago in Fontwell. You've seen that. So he could be a very exciting horse. I'm hoping the Elliots go the National Hunt chase direction with him. I think he could be very good. My fifth horse is She Wears It Well. I know I tipped her up last year for the Mayor's Novice, but if she was to improve and be as good, she didn't run at Cheltenham last year, obviously she was injured, but I think she could be very, very good. And I think that's a division crying out for a star. So I've got She Wears It Well there. So that is my 5 horses to follow. Callum, who you got for your 5 horses?
First one, Flying Flag for Scotland, Ahoy Senior. If Brave Man's Game is 7-1 for Festival Novice's Chase, why is the horse that beaten by 7 lengths at Aintree 25-1?
Yeah.
Is it because it's trained in Scotland? Possibly. But I actually went to Ayr to watch a Stuart Crawford horse that day. They know you weren't allowed in COVID, so I did join the car park. It's an odds-on favourite, and he was beaten by a 16-1 shot in his maiden called the Ahoy Senior. And he went to Grade 1, won by 7 lengths at 66s, and there was certainly no flick about it. He dominated from the front, bossed it. Maybe some of them are feeling the effects of a long season, and he was fresh, and that flatters him a little bit. But he has a point-to-point background as well, so he's certainly going over a fence. He might start out Sunday at Carlisle in the Colin Parker over 2.5 mile. That looks on the short side to be. But if he's got the class to overcome that, then I think the owners will be keen. Owners will certainly be keen to go to Cheltenham this time around. Owners are allowed to go in, unlike Aintree last year. The timings of that as well, I think, put off a lot of British owners. So I think he's certainly one that's worth monitoring at 25s, 22s, 25s, given what Brave Man Game's 3 times short. I know he's got a more fashionable trainer perhaps, and we've seen him jump a fence, but hoisting Gordon in comparison to him is way too big. Another one is Doddy the Great, who we've touched on before, but he just won at Ludlow and Huntingdon bumpers in really gritty fashion. Particularly the one at Huntingdon under a penalty, and that's quite hard to do. And I think Nicky Henderson did not get a clear run with a lot of his juveniles, and the ones that he did could also improve quite significantly as well. So I think that does show he's got a really likeable attitude. I think he's certainly worth following. It's also a great story as well with Doddy Weir, raising money for the MND Foundation and stuff like that. And he can certainly improve as well. Third one is a bit left field. Her Indoors for Alan King. She was mid-division in Fred Winter. It was just a bit too much of a hustle and bustle for her at that stage. It was quite a. She did show a bit of promise. It kind of faded out of it and get bumped about. It was a bit of a messy race. The won by Jeff Kidder at 80-1, of course. So I mean, it was ridiculous. Yeah, ridiculous odds. She was also poorly positioned that day, but the following month she came out and won a really kind of nice Grade 3 listed juvenile filly race. Beat Scholastic of Joseph O'Brien's by 2 lengths. Did it quite well, and that was at Cheltenham. She's had a little flat run last month that should get her fit. That was at Nottingham. That should keep her fit for her assignment at Wetherby this weekend. Nursery 6-1, a similar kind of fillies handicap race that she might win. And she's also in the Greatwood at 20-1, which Alan King has a really good record in. Yeah. And off a mark of like 133, I think it's certainly within her compass. I think she's got a lot more to come. And 21 for the Greatwood, and that will not be there if she utilises her race fitness to proper effect in a good little race at Wetherby, a good listed race there. So I think she's one to follow. I think she could pair way this season quite well. Fourth is Dark Raven of Willie Mullins, and then this is just a visual thing, but I do need an Irish representative in the 5. It's so visually impressive at Leopardstown Fairyhouse. Came from the back, just hot knife through butter material, but he still hit the line really strongly. He still charged like lengths and lengths clear. Still galloped on. He wasn't like idle or inexperienced up front. He was looking around. He was still focused on the job and hit the line like really, really hard. And he could be certainly anything between 2.5 miles. You'd think he could take high rank. I know a lot of people are talking about Willie Mullins' bumper also, like Co-Create Still Gerhard, for instance, but I do not think he's that far behind.
He looked really good. Visually impressive. He looked really good.
For the Munion, the double green Munion Swede options. The 5th one really is an outsider. It's Cormier of Brian Ellison's 5-year-old. He really caught my eye in the World Champion Hurdle this year. When he was 4th, faded out of it. 3 out. He was absolutely cantering. He was going the best of them all. Thought he was going to win, but he just blew up. A little bit of a break from a flat campaign as well. Did about 5 or 6 runs there that season. and maybe just tied up towards the end. He's really kind of small, scrawny thing as a 4-year-old when he ran the Greatwood last year. He was 7th of 14. But he did look to have strengthened up. He didn't quite see it out as well as expected to be able to champion hurdle, but he'd been dropped £1 for that to 132. Now, when he was in the Greatwood last year, he was off 136. He's only a 4-year-old. It was quite a strong renewal that year. He's now rated 132. He's got a chance in that. He's been kept fit in the flat, and his second at Haydock in the Swinton Hurdle reads really well behind a horse called Copperless of Ollie Murphy's, who he really thinks is a very good Grand Annual and County Hurdle type. But the third was Camprons, and he's won at Cheltenham subsequently, and he won the Persian War at Chepstow earlier on in the campaign. And Cormier's weight pool with there is it's quite significant now.
Yeah.
If he gets a run, if he gets in, he's 33-1 for the Greatwood Hurdle right now. Ellison won the race with a 5-year-old called Nietzsche in the exact same ownership, off really bottom weight, and Danny McMenamin was on board. I do think that this could be a long-term plan. Maybe the World Champion Hurdle run, where he, to my eye, he did look like he just blew up towards the end, and he needed it. It took a blow. If he can come on markedly for fitness there, maybe he could. He's really one to watch out for that big price in that race. But if he gets in off 132, because he's going to be running off £4 less than he was last year, and he's a year older. It's not a 4-year-old anymore, so I'd imagine he'd be a year stronger. He'd be much improved.
Brilliant 5 horses. The other horses we're going to keep my notepad for this season. We're going to open the floor up with two. We've got a few fan questions to ask Calum about the season ahead. Does the Cheltenham Festival exert too much for the season for trainers?
For trainers, probably it does.
Do you think, obviously, I know this is probably, is this to do with how well Nichols' horses did at Aintree a few weeks after? The likes of Clandezobo, Monmoral. We saw, obviously, a lot of good horses at Nichols doing well that weekend. Yeah,
and he tends to specialise at Kempton as well, but he did have Clandezobo that went over at Punchestown and win.
Yeah.
Frodon's going to be running it down Royal on Saturday, so maybe there are more options. The owners, I think the owners as well was another thing of, it was going to be quite clear that there wasn't going to be anyone at Cheltenham at all. It was going to be behind closed doors, but there was a good chance that Aintree would get there. So I mean, like Sir Alex could go and see Hitman and Protectorate and with Dan Skelton and stuff like that. I mean, that might have made a big difference to them. That they could actually attend Aintree. They're not going to really take in both, are you? I suppose some of the times you can, but I think that might have been a big difference maker as well. And Kempton and Aintree are so far removed from Cheltenham as well that it does really take a specialist horse. And we've seen it All Mankind as well. Wins at Ayr easily, Aintree, and can run well at Cheltenham, but it's not his track. It's not his best form. Clandezobo as well is another classic example. And you kind of associate Dan Skelton and Paul Nichols' horses as Kempton, Aintree, flat track bullies. Shan Blue trying to dominate that Mars as well, but it just doesn't work. It's just a little bit tougher and deeper. The undulations of the track is also a bit unique. So yeah, I think trainers target the races that they think the horse has got the best chance in and most suitable to the horse, and sometimes it's just not Cheltenham. Yeah, definitely.
Will anyone challenge Paul Nichols in the UK and Willie Mullins in Ireland to be top trainer?
Probably not. Willie Mullins is starting a little bit later than normal, I think. So maybe Henry de Bromhead could nick a little bit of a head start and have a bit of depth. But the sheer strength and depth Willie Mullins has, I think he's more likely that he's completely out of reach. I think he's well clear there. I think Paul Nichols, the way he does operate outside Cheltenham as well, and big handicaps and the strength and depth he has, I think he's got more horses than Nicky Henderson. So even if Nicky Henderson does have a really good year, the likes of Shishkin and Chantry House dominate, they can get a lot of prize money out of it. But I just think across the board, I think Paul Nichols probably a bit more depth, and Dan Skelton as well. Probably the three that you'd certainly look at. It's hard to see beyond the reigning champs at the moment, to be honest.
I'd agree with that. I don't see anybody catching Willie Mullins with the strength and depth he has, and I just think Paul Nicholls takes advantage of the grades, the grade 2, grade 3s that they all mount up, don't they? And I think they're just stacked, and they kind of races. This is for both of us. If you had one horse to back the whole season in one race, what would it be? I've got a very specific one, but I'll let you go first.
I'll keep it simple. I'm not going to be not a horse that's too short, but what you want right now is a horse that's pretty much nailed on to turn up, can guarantee to run its race, and it's Tell Me Something Girl in the Mayor's Hurdle.
Right, okay.
8-1. She won the Mayor's Novices easily, and she looks open to much of improvement. So I don't really see a graduate from the Novice Cup beating her again. Echoes and Rain could be more of a 2-miler. Black Tears is now retired, and she outstayed Concertista. So maybe Willie Mullins will think, well, should I drop Concertista back to 2 miles as well?
I can't have Stormy Island.
Stormy Island, I think, will soon this WKD hurdle potentially this weekend. So we might find out more about her. But Stormy Island's been well held in these editions in the past. Tell Me Something Girl's the new girl on the block, and Henry de Bromhead's been already we're going to work backwards from the Mayor's Hurdle, so it's going to be a target. She actually in Cheltenham, even though it's old course, she's young, she's going to improve, and she's not like a 74, 2-1, even 41 poke. She's 8s. I mean, if you're a hefty each way player, I'm convinced it should be there. It's hard to see her be completely at the frame, because I really think the only way you can get Honeysuckle beat is if you try and run levels with her. So Willie Mullins might be tempted to. There was what Galois coming through. Hook Up Can't Jump. I really are scratching the surface. I don't think there's much in Britain.
She wears it well
in that division. Yeah, She Wears It Well could come back. That could be the one. But again, back for injury.
I know that's.
So I think out the top, out the leading contenders of that market, I think Tell Me Something Girl 8-1 is really solid. I think she should probably be 6s or 7s.
I've got one obviously for Cheltenham. I just don't see how LMA loses the Mayor's Chase. I think she's even better. When you look at how well the race went last year, Cole Reevy just outbattled her in the day and just put in something else. But I think you gain more respect for LMA when you see how well Cole Reevy won that race against Monkfish. She was outstanding that day, and just the fact that there's nothing really coming through. Mount Ida's the only one I can see maybe been better, but I don't think she's in the same class as LMA, and I think LMA is hard to beat. I've got another one, and I've got your thoughts on this. Royal Pagaille, Betfair Chase. If it turns into a slog, I think Royal Pagaille is the bet of the year in that race. I think 72. I think that's. Applitard, they're talking about going. Applitard, I think, might just need the run. I think he'll be better for the run. Bristol de Mai, again, we know what he does, but Royal Pagaille in that race, I think could be tailor-made for a horse like him.
Could be if it's a monsoon, yeah.
And it usually is. Haydoc's usually very wet that day.
Yeah, I think the last 3 have been running good to soft, I'm afraid. So
that could be good.
With a dry Champions Day, didn't they?
I know. If it turns up really, really soft in the day, Royal Pagaille for the Betfair Chase could be one of the bets of the year for me. We are going to obviously just wrap up the show there. We've got a couple of wee things just to go before we wrap up. Exciting weekend, the first kind of real weekend of the season. Weatherby Ascot Down Royal. Have you any selections for that, the upcoming racing this weekend?
Nothing concrete, but a few ideas. Friday Down Royal, WKD Hurdle. Tia Hupu could run a big race. I think he's been slightly forgotten about. Gordon Elliott. He was odds on to beat Jeff Kidder. He was beaten 3 lengths. I think Jeff Kidder's going to reoppose. I think him, Zana here, and Tia Hupu. It's probably going to be between.
Alexios is going. I think he's been ruled out.
Yeah, Calexios is ineligible. I think something happened in France, so he's not there. Aspire won it last year, so 4-year-olds do kind of cash in their weight allowance that year.
Abacadabras, don't they?
And Jeff Kidder's got a penalty, so I think Tia Hupu might be the one, the fresh one that might come in and rock the boat there. I think he might outpace Sana here. Zanny is an interesting horse. I'm quite fascinated how he develops after running below par at Cheltenham and Triumph. But I think to you, Hooper, I think you might get a decent price as well. He could be outside the 3 as well. It doesn't really have that flashy profile as Jeff Kidd and Zanny here do, but he's certainly not far away on form. He does have a slight weight pull with him, so I think you might get a decent price with him on Friday. Her indoors at Weatherby 155 is about 6-1. She's got a race fitness advantage if she takes that engagement up, and then go into the Greatwood.
There's nothing in that race standing out to me at all. I think Marie's Rock's favourite.
Yeah, I think it's very muddled. I do think I saw her indoors. I think she's about 4th favourite at the moment in that field, and I thought she'd probably be a bit higher up than that. But race fitness on her side, and the Charlie Hall surname is back. The weird and wacky world of surname. Tough to take him on at evens, even though he won it last year really impressively, didn't he? But just the nature of the horse, you cannot back him at evens, can you? You just bomb out, wouldn't he? So
I wouldn't give up on Master Tommy Tucker. I know he's a bit of a crazy jumper, but he could be.
His jumping improved a bit last year, but I think he's quite old now. I think he's a bit long in the tooth. So I think Shan Blue might be the one there to take advantage of that.
Yeah, it's going to be an inch.
In the big handicap at Ascot, hopefully that Tizards can come back to form this season. And they're another yard that's showing a little bit more promise. I think Mr. Malarkey does have a big, good ground handicap in him.
Yeah,
he's at 16-20. So if there's any blue in the machine in him, then I'll be keeping a close eye on it. That's just 4 that I've spotted at the moment, but long way to go for that weekend. Anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to make a wee announcement as well. And every Saturday morning, I'm going to have a wee column on our website where we kind of tipping for the racing on Saturday and Sunday. So that's another wee thing just to keep an eye on over the weekend. We'll obviously start by this Saturday. We're looking at the racing we've got upcoming. We are going to just explain how the format's going to work going forward. We're going to be on the channel every Wednesday from now until Cheltenham, just basically doing what we did last year, recapping, making anti-post picks, previewing the racing, things like that. It's going to be another exciting year, Callum. We're looking forward to it, mate.
Yeah, we'll try our best.
Definitely.
Try and depict what's going on.
Yeah, we're going to be back next week. We'll be back next Wednesday. We're going to do a full recap of horses that's caught our eye over the past few months, make our first anti-post picks, and basically preview everything that's going to go ahead. But thank you very much to Callum for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure to get back up and running.
Yeah, great. Back up and running.
Brilliant,
Brilliant.
We're looking forward to the season ahead, and also big thanks to Gavin Lynch for joining us as a special guest this week. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to somebody with a mind like Gavin. It was an absolute pleasure. Thanks very much to everyone that tuned in. Please subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels and follow us on social media for racing coverage throughout the year. And we hope you can join us for the rest of the year. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you. Cheers.